welcome to Info Exchange's Conversations with the CIO. Now, in this series, I'll be talking to who I believe is one of the brightest minds in the technology space locally, right? He's Undel Williams, he's CIO of Info Exchange, and he's worked in a number of industries. He has a wealth of experience, worked on projects across agro-processing, logistics, banking and finance, and government. And so we brought him here in this forum, right, to pick his brain a little, delve into some topics that, we know are buzzworthy, newsworthy, and even some intricate topics that we'll help to bring it down to a level that everybody, right, can understand, right? And so let's we're going to get into it. We're going to talk with Undel, and let's go right in. Undel, how are you today?
I'm good, sir. How are you?
All right, I'm good. Right. Feeling a bit bright. We're Info Exchange.
Yeah, I noticed.
Yeah. All right, so let's go into it. So everybody has been, saying data is the new oil, right? Data. Everybody uses a lot of data right now, right? And even going as far as saying, your data and applications are no longer support the business; they are the business, right? Because of how much they're using, right? So. What are your thoughts on that? Just generally.
Data. It used to be that, what you could make, and today it still is, because if you look at a Tesla, how you go about making the cars and how efficient you are at it is good. Right. But what is even more important about, for example, a Tesla is the data that they produce and the information that they are gathering from that data that turns into their competitive advantage. The same thing goes for us locally. The data that you gather from your customers, from your operations, from your entire business actually serves to inform what it is that you need to do to make your whole entire business work more effectively, efficiently, and of course, at all times, securely.
Right. So, I'm glad that you stressed how important data, like leveraging data, because you mentioned that it's how well you can use data can be your competitive advantage in, any space that you're in, right? But, when I talk to sales engineers, right, when I talk to salesperson, it seems to be one of the most difficult things to get that conversation with, the exec, to really delve down on the importance of data and get them to buy into data. They're even hesitant to touch on that topic because of how complicated they might think it is, right? So why do you think they're so resistant? Like, what do you think makes them so resistant to touching that topic of technology and leveraging technology?
Yeah, because they understand the data. I mean, when you come at the board level, if you notice, there are persons who represent audit, legal, finance, and operations to a large extent. But there is something missing on most boards, and that's a representation for technology. And that representation is important because, as we have seen over the last, I would say, 2 decades, is that technology has brought many businesses to the forefront. Technology is an intricate part of their business in terms of how it actually provides innovation and disintermediation. So therefore, most of the companies that you have seen being left behind is because they did not focus or pay attention to how to effectively use technology within their business, and hence they got completely disintermediated out of their industry. No longer around. You name them. Blockbusters, you name them. Locally, we do have some examples as well, because when you look at our space, one of the biggest challenges you have is, okay, I used to do importations from the US. So traditionally, it would have took 2 to 3 weeks via shipment.
Using ships.
Using water and ships, via sea, as I would say, or via air. And it used to be just the FedExes and the DHLs and so forth. But if you notice, over the last couple of years, we now have different companies that are coming into the space, allowing consumers to not use those traditional channels. And because of that disruption, in which you have different delivery services coming into the space, using technologies to actually afford the consumer the opportunity to purchase goods in a different jurisdiction,
Right.
then that one change has now affected local retail, the shipment industry, as well as how we look at whether or not do we have to actually transact within our borders, or can we actually transact outside of our borders?
Right.
And because of that innovation alone, it actually creates a lot of opportunities for us as consumers to lower our costs
Right.
and to get what we want.
So, you jumped into a very key topic, because you mentioned that there are a number of industries or companies that have been disrupted by traditional companies using traditional methods that have been disrupted by companies that have embraced new technology, have embraced, using data in new ways, right? You mentioned, Blockbuster versus Netflix. You mentioned, you mentioned Tesla earlier, right?
Versus what we call the ICE vehicles, which are, petrol, the petrol and diesel.
And all that, right. And then, you can even go as far as using Kodak, digital photography and Kodak.
Versus the
right?
iPhone.
Right. So, you mentioned local industries, right? You mentioned some local industries, or how local industry has been impacted by that, right? Dive into that a little bit more, because, we want to bring it closer to home for our viewers or listeners. What examples of local technologies or local spaces have been disrupted by, the use of technology or the advanced use of technology out here?
For a long time, the education space has been disrupted. When you think about how we learn and what we learn, we're no longer confined to a traditional classroom. So most of what you can learn, you can actually learn online,
right,
and actually learn it at your own pace.
Right.
So therefore, what we call on-demand training, self-paced training or learning, that is something that has changed the space as well. So therefore, do I need to actually attend a classroom?
Or can I just get a certificate online?
Can I get a certificate online? And is that certificate actually, what we call accredited for use in not only Jamaica, but the rest of the world? Because that's another thing that has changed. We used to be training or educating ourselves to offer our labor locally. But now, because of what we are seeing globally and the global trends, there are no geographical limitations to where you can offer your expertise. So having certifications or certificates or diploma or whatever it is that affords you that global access. You can now access that online. So that's the education space.
Okay. And so all of that, right? Talked about leveraging technology. I want to double back on, back to on a little bit to talking to that C-suite, right? So clearly, everything that you've said so far, it is important that we leverage technology.
Yes.
The C-suite and people in any industry, they're throwing the term digital transformation around, right? Like, talk to me about that, right? That's one of the biggest buzzwords, right? What exactly are people talking about when they're talking about digital transformation?
So let us address the first piece, which is adequate representation at the board level, as well as at the C-suite level, as it relates to technology and its implementation. So the first thing, as I said, legal, audit, operations. They're there. Finance. Technology needs to be there as well, because technology is a driver of the business. Data is the new fuel.
Yeah, and you use technology. Those other departments are also using the technology.
I always challenge the C-suite to say, plug out the servers, take away the laptops, and operate. Show me how you can operate. So the things that are happening within the technical space, within the company, are extremely important to the C-suite. But there's some resistance around understanding or trying to understand how best to leverage it. So sometimes they take the hands-off approach, which is, I have a CIO or I have a IT manager, I have a director of IT. You know, I tell them, you know, these are the rough things that I want to do. Let them execute. But your choice of technology, as well as your use of technology, is also important. So therefore, that decision as to what you choose, how effective is it, and how efficient it is very important. So it should be a conversation, not a one-way street, where you need at the board level to understand how the choices that you make can impact your business, either positively or what are the risks associated with it as well. So it is important that within your board, and you know, the other part that is coming up is privacy and security. So when you talk about the technology implementations or your technology use within your company, when you talk about privacy and security, you now know that at the board level, we need to have representation that speaks to and let us understand how does this thing actually help us? How does this thing actually, you know, define or help to define or help to improve our business strategy? What are the things that we can do that will create that disruption that we need to move forward? How can we optimize our operations? Things like that.
And, you know, I'm glad you said that, because so as we, you know, bring this first episode of this conversation to, you know, the series of conversations to a close, you know, as somebody who is at the C-suite, you're at you're at the executive level, right? At a very high level, like, what are three big things, like three major things that boards should be paying attention to, right? I mean, we spoke a lot about the use of data. You know, it's a competitive, proper use of it is a competitive advantage. Industries that have been disrupted because of the use of technology, and companies that have fallen out because they refuse to, you know, adapt and, you know, use it for them. So what are three big things that boards in Jamaica, you know, across the board, like across industries, should consider when, you know, when it comes to technology, when it comes to leveraging technology and leveraging data for their businesses?
Yeah, first of all, every business, every single business that operates today and operates successfully is a technology business. That's the first thing. And because you're a technology business, that means you have to get involved at the board level and at the C-suite. You have to know what's happening in that area. So the first thing that you have to understand is, how can technology enable my business, enable operational efficiency, enable employee productivity, whatever metric that is important to your business. How does technology actually help us to reduce costs? All of those things. So I would say operational efficiency definitely is one of the things. The next thing is, whenever you're operating, one of the things that you need to do is to make sure that you're operating securely. Meaning that whether your employees are working in the office or out of the office, when they access your crown jewels, that is your key applications and your data, you need to ensure that they're doing so securely. That means your employees are operating securely, as well as the security within your data center is effective and efficient. And I think the part that most companies miss is the effective part of cybersecurity. So cybersecurity effectiveness, operational efficiency. So those are two. And then last but not least, of course, you have to pay attention to your financial operations. I mean, you're in business to make money. So therefore, when it comes to being able to sustain and have what we call business resilience, that is important, meaning you have to be financially sound, and the rest of your business has to be able to withstand any sort of disruption. So business resilience is the next piece that you need to focus on, which is, you know, if something happens, whether via mistake or naturally, how can my business recover without missing a heartbeat? And that's across your people, technology, everything.
So we'll have operational efficiency, we'll have security,
cybersecurity, effectiveness,
and then we'll have business resilience. Those are the three
important
things. Right. So this was a great start to these conversations that we're going to have. People, you don't want to miss any of these conversations, any of these episodes. Mr. Williams, thank you for coming on to the first one, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one, guys. Look out for more of Info Exchange's conversations with the CIO, and I'll see you in the next one.